Alright, today I'm going to talk to you about designing a website that really sells. There are several pointers that I can give, and I've determined these pointers not by taking a wild guess or by reading internet marketing books or watching YouTube videos. But I've learned all these things really by trial and error. And what's important to understand about that trial and error is that in the process, I've had the opportunity to make over $20 million worth of mistakes because I've spent over $20 million getting good search engine ranking on Google, whether it be through the Google AdWords program or whether it be through organic search engine ranking. So fortunately for you, you don't have to risk $20 million to find out the things that you need to have in your web page and the way that your web page needs to be laid out in order to really sell products and services online. So let's get into it. The first thing that you're going to need to know is that if you're not on the search engine at all, there's no way anybody's going to find you online. So you can have the greatest product or service in the world, but if nobody finds you, you're never going to make sell number one. So there's several ways that you can promote your website. You can promote it through your business cards, your brochures, you can have a car magnet, whatever. But those things aren't really going to drive a lot of people to your site. The one thing that drives a ton of people to your site are search engines. And of course, search engines are dominated by Google. A recent study shows that 80% of all searches are done by Google, but I can tell you by my own calculations, it's actually even higher than that. I believe it's closer to 90% of all searches are done on Google. So when we're talking about search engines, we're talking about Google for the most part. Another study shows that over 85% of all people now, when looking to buy a product or service, start at a search engine. So it's very important that you're able to get on to search engines, and when I say search engines, I mean primarily Google. The next thing that's important to remember is that the average person online will only wait 7 seconds for your page to load. So if they do find your page, regardless of where they found that from, whether it be Google or otherwise, if your page takes longer than 7 seconds to load, nobody will ever know about your product or service, and you'll never make a single sale. So, what are some of the mistakes that people make that cause their page to take longer than 7 seconds to load? Well, the most obvious things are that they built their page and included several extremely large images. If you go out and today with your camera phone or with a high-powered digital camera, DSLR or otherwise, and you snap a photo and then you just upload that photo to your website, that photo is typically over 1 megabyte. So on a standard high-speed internet connection, a person might get 10 megabytes per second, 20 megabytes per second. There are a lot faster connections, but most people are really only getting 10 to 20 megabytes per second. So if you've got and then those speeds don't translate into real life time because you still have processing time and things like that. The bottom line is if your page is a megabyte, it's way too big. You need to try to keep your page under 500 kilobytes if you want it to show up quickly, and if at all possible, keep it to under 100 kilobytes. This is going to give you better search engine ranking, and it's also going to make your page load quickly, and so you're going to get more visibility. Well, how does it help with better search engine ranking? Simple. Google's biggest problem is controlling costs. In order to go out and to crawl the entire web and send a piece of software, which is called a spider, across every single website. It takes a tremendous amount of computing power simply because there's over 20 billion pages that they've indexed or something like that. So they've got to keep 20 billion pages not only in the search engine results, but up to date. So they continually send this little piece of software called a spider to your website. And that spider reports back to the mothership, so to speak, which is Google's data center, and then their computers have to organize those results. Well, when you're talking about 20 billion different results and counting every day and keeping them all up to date, this is taking a tremendous amount of computing power. That's why you may have read in the paper about Google starting a new data center in your area or some part of the world. They have data centers all over the world. These are huge warehouses with stack after stack of computers. In fact, they're nothing but computers. They're typically built in an area where they can get affordable electricity, since that's their #1 cost. So the bottom line is this: in order for Google to crawl your website, index it, if you have a slow loading page, not only are you reducing the number of people that will wait to see the page load, but you're also telling Google that you're slow and they're going to move on because it's costing them money to wait at your website to crawl. Their crawler needs to move on to the next site, or their spider needs to move on to the next site. So page speed is really a huge pillar of any successful online campaign. And that's why too you see a lot of pages online that are not aesthetically pleasing. They're not real beautiful designs, but they're hugely successful. If you haven't looked at Berkshire Hathaway's website, for example, you'll see it's about the most basic website you can get, but for more than one reason it's wildly successful. And I guarantee it shows up high in the search results for anything that has to do with Berkshire Hathaway. So getting back to your page, another common mistake, the first common mistake, if you remember, was people that put large images on their page. They snap a photo with their camera phone or their digital camera, and they don't reduce those photos. You need to reduce those photos in an image editor or compress them or something, get them small. Just make the photo small. Use an image editor. Use something like, there's a software called PicSizer that I use. It brings them down to 640 by 480. That's a good size. Most monitor resolutions are around 1280 by 720 these days, so you can put a 640 by 480 photo into a page and still have a room to work with that's going to display on a monitor. We'll get to that in a minute. The other mistake is they do their site in Flash, or they put a large audio file or video on the page that doesn't stream properly. Anything that has to load before showing your content, like Flash, is going to slow down your page, and it's going to stop people from visiting your site. So Flash is not an option if you're serious about being online. And it's not Flash. Same problems apply to Flash. One is it takes an extremely long time to load the page, and then two, it's not search engine friendly. When you have Flash is essentially a sequence of images. Those images are embedded into an animation framework. So what that means is that if you write an article and it's all in Flash, it's got all kinds of great little text and tidbits in it, but Google doesn't read Flash. It's like looking at an image. Robots aren't smart enough yet to look at pictures and describe the pictures. We just don't have that level of artificial intelligence yet. What we do have is robots that can take a series of ones and zeros, which is essentially text, which is why all the pages on web starts are done in HTML, because it's easy reading for the spider. Easy reading for the spider means a lower cost in acquiring data, reporting that data back to the data center, and organizing the search results. So it ends up meaning better search results for you. Flash is just not an option in any way, shape, or form. It's going to take longer for your page to load, and it's not compatible with search engines. I know some of the competitors out there say that it is, but they're using a workaround, and Google doesn't like workarounds. You can look that up, figure that all day, that Google doesn't like anybody that tries to work around or game their system or do anything to manipulate their algorithms and their search results. So like getting by page speed, the next thing is once someone does end up on your page, the page does load, and it hopefully takes less than 7 seconds for your page to load. They need to see a concise headline to tell them they're at the right place. So if they did a search on Google, and we'll use the example of widget. I don't know why nobody actually ever shops for widgets, but we're going to use the example of widgets. If I search for blue widgets on Google, and then I come to your website, and I see 2 paragraphs of text, I see 4 photos of what looks like different factories and, you know, office buildings, and, you know, I see all this great little information, but I don't see anything that says blue widgets. I came to your page because I thought you were a place that either told me information or sold blue widgets or whatever. So this brings me to my next point, which is you need to have that concise headline. Right across the top of the home page or the front page, you should have a headline that says something like the lowest prices for blue widgets on the internet, using the example blue widgets. And then if you're selling them, I'm assuming you're selling blue widgets in this example. But whatever the case is, some headline that lets somebody know, just like a newspaper. You know, a newspaper headlines are designed a certain way to stick out, to be read. You want your page designed in a way to be read, and you want your headline to echo the reason why the person came to the website. Now, if you're selling a ton of different items, then you need to do this for every single page, and then you need to have the people come from the search results for that specific page and then go to that specific headline. So for example, maybe I want red widgets. Well, if I have a whole page dedicated to blue widgets, then that's great, and I need to have a whole page dedicated to red widgets, and I need that to come from the search engine, you know, to be found on the search engine and people to come from there, and then I need the headline there to say red widgets. So you need a concise headline to remind people that they're on the right website, because once they're on the website, if they don't see that, there's so many other websites out there, they're going to click the back button, which, by the way, is the most popular button in the browser, according to researchers. So you want to do anything but have them click that back button, basically. And so that'll bring me to my next point, which is you need to have a clear call to action. What is a call to action? Well, a call to action is a button. It can be a phone number. It can be really anything you want it to be, but it's just telling the person who's visiting your website the next step they need to take in order to get what they want. So if I was selling blue widgets, I would maybe have a big button that said, click here to buy blue widgets now. It'd be hard not to understand what I needed to do in that scenario if I want to buy blue widgets. Now, maybe you're not selling things online. Maybe you're selling services. Maybe what you're selling requires a phone call or a lead or whatever. So you could have the call to action be, call us at 1-800 whatever, or whatever your phone number is. But I can tell you that that's kind of a weak offer. I'm going to help give you some ideas on how you can really make the meter move when it comes to driving online sales here in a minute. In fact, I'm going to tell you the one secret that really nobody knows, but is some people know it, but they're not willing to share it because it's so powerful that it really allows any business to be transformed into an online business and make money. And I'll be sharing that with you in just a moment. But your call to action is that concise button, that phone number. It's the what do I do next? It's the answer to the question, what do I do next? And you want to make sure that call to action is viewable without scrolling. So the smallest computer screens on the market are 600 pixels tall. So if you if you know how to measure pixels, or you can take a screenshot or whatever, and you can use an image editor to measure pixels, you don't want your pixels to be more than, or you don't want your call to action to be more than 600 pixels down the page, or the person who's visiting your web page will have to scroll to see your call to action. And if they have to scroll to see your call to action, they will probably never find it, because people don't generally like to scroll, and they don't generally assume that the critical information on a page is somewhere buried down on the bottom of the page. So now, that being said, I'm revisiting screen resolutions. The most popular screen resolutions right now are something like 1366 by 720 or 1280 by 720, something like that. I'd have to check the stats. They change all the time. Basically, the bigger the monitors get on average and the higher their resolution, then the more of your web page will show without scrolling. So if you have somebody with, like on my desk, I've got a 27-inch iMac, so the resolution on things like 1920 by 1280 or something like that. Anyway, I can see pretty much the entire web page of any web page, unless I really, unless it has a tremendous amount of content. So it's easy to design web pages for me, but if you're on a netbook, then you only have 600 pixels. Your viewable area on your screen is only 600 pixels tall. So what I suggest is design for the smallest screens. Don't design for the biggest screens. If you design for the biggest screens, then you will only get people with the biggest screens. If you design for the small screens, you'll get everybody. Okay? So let me go back to the one secret, the one key that so many people fail to realize when creating a website, and this pretty much makes or breaks whether someone's successful online. And that's when you do finally get a site visitor, whether you paid for advertising or got search engine ranking or they came off your business card or brochure, you need to have some way to get that person's contact information and build a database of prospects or leads. The easiest way to do that is to add a form to your page. And the easiest way to add a form is to use WebStarts, because the form builder is built right into the design tools. But let me tell you a little bit about this form. Number one, people will not fill out this form if you don't give them a reason to fill out the form. Just having a form on your page isn't going to get anybody to fill out the form. Number two, nobody wants to read your newsletter. So, whether maybe you're offended by that, because your newsletter might have really great content, but unless you can tell them some compelling reason why your newsletter is valuable. I see so many people that put forms on their page. It's like, subscribe to our newsletter. It's basically, the question is really, do I want more spam or not? And of course I don't want more spam. If your information's that great, you'll have it on a blog, and I'll come to your site and read it that way. So here's the key. The key is you need to offer your site visitor something of tremendous perceived value that hopefully costs you little to nothing, and give it to them for free in exchange for their contact information.